Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 48 male, have a daughter Lisa, 15 female, from my first marriage. I'm not on particularly good terms with her mother, and Lisa unfortunately became an outlet for her resentment towards me, which ended up souring our relationship massively. Lisa is a good person, but unfortunately she takes after her mom in terms of demeanor and often acts rude and entitled. A few years ago I married again. Lisa decided to not attend my wedding, and she said a bunch of hurtful things to my then fiancée Rosemary, 38 female. Since then, our relationship got even worse. When Rosemary and I welcomed our son a year and a half ago, Lisa sent me a text saying that since I have a perfect baby now, I could stop pestering her and trying to play family with her. It hurt me deeply, and I ended up distancing myself from her, though I kept sending her $100 a month as her allowance. Recently, we had an unplanned addition to our family. Long story short, Rosemary's sister, who wasn't a good parent to start with, terminated her custody rights over her son Blake, 17 male. Rosemary and I decided to take Blake in. Unfortunately, a few years ago, Blake got in a horrible car wreck that left him permanently disabled. Luckily, he can somewhat walk and doesn't need 24/7 assistance around the house, but that's about it. Blake is an amazing person, and he quickly became part of our family. I decided to give the $100 allowance to Blake instead. He was beyond happy and grateful. I also made a hard decision and gave him my car. It's a 2022 Cadillac Escalade, and I was planning on getting rid of it this year anyway, since Lisa is turning 16 in a month, and I wanted to gift it to Lisa. Now it's Blake's car, and he absolutely loves it. He really needed a car because his mobility issues don't let him get around easily anymore, and it changed his life massively. Of course, Lisa didn't like it. When she realized that she wasn't getting any allowance, she called me and asked what's wrong. It was the first call I received from her in a year, if not more. I explained that now that my family has expanded, I don't have enough money. I'll still be sending her mom the child support payments as per court agreement, but she shouldn't expect anything extra. She asked me about the car since she knew about my plans on giving her a car. I told her that now the situation has changed, and I no longer could give her a car. I'll admit, what I said next was probably a-hole-ish of me, since I told her that I now have 2 children to play family with, and asked her to stop pestering me. This caused her to blow up completely, to the point she got her mom to call me and scream at me, and so did her new husband. They threatened to sue me. Lisa said she'll go no contact, and so on. I just brushed off the threats, especially since Rosemary is a lawyer, and I made my peace with poor contact with Lisa years ago. They also managed to write a few mean things to Rosemary and Blake, and this is what got me wondering whether I was an a-hole here. She is OP's daughter, and obviously feels abandoned. And she's done nothing to warrant OP spending less money on her, which, let's be fair, is the only love and attention she gets from OP. OP is the parent. OP is supposed to be the bigger person. OP is supposed to be parenting, and he may have just put the final nail in the coffin. OP is 48, and should have known better than to behave like this. She is just a child who is dealing with the emotional carnage of the divorce. And now let's hear the community's opinion. You're the a-hole, you're the adult, and haven't acted like it for basically her entire life. She was what, 10, 11, 12 when you divorced? She takes after her mom, aka, I did absolutely no parenting, and I'm shocked she acts like the parent who actually raised her. You distanced yourself because a child said something mean. Oh my God, seriously? Will you do the same when your son does the same? 'Cause guess what? No teen has an always positive relationship with their parents. More than likely, your kid will say 1, they hate you. 2, you're ruining their life. 3, they didn't choose to be born or something similar. So you're just gonna dip when he gets to that stage? You're the a-hole, and based on this diatribe against your daughter, who is still a child, I'm guessing you're the a-hole in the previous divorce too. And you're the a-hole as a parent throughout. And you're the a-hole for thinking you can buy Blake's love with a car and $100 a month because it didn't work with your daughter. You're the a-hole for thinking that you giving people things entitles you to their undying gratitude and affection when you're obviously a terrible parent who can't even differentiate between your ex-wife and your own daughter, And you've distanced yourself from your own child because you're so much the a-hole that you have no sense of responsibility for the relationship, other than thinking she ought to be indebted to you for tossing a pretty normal allowance her direction, in addition to court-ordered child support, which you obviously think she should be grateful for also. Even though you're an entirely absent parent who couldn't care less about her. You're the a-hole because you're the adult here, and a parent, and you couldn't really care less about your own daughter. Yup, you're the a-hole, in case you hadn't gotten that yet. You're the a-hole. Lisa was what, 12 years old when you got remarried? At that age, it's understandable that she copped an attitude, and then felt further alienated after you had another child. But instead of reassuring her that she's still a priority to you, you threw in the towel. Then you doubled down after taking in Blake. Your disdain for Lisa, and the hateful way in which you compare her to your ex, sucks. Did you promise her the car and then renege? If so, double a-hole move. Did you ever seek therapy? Enjoy your extra $100 a month, and don't act like a victim in the future if you realize how badly you screwed up. Not that I really think you have the capacity to self-reflect. My wife died unexpectedly in August. We had been doing IVF and the first round wasn't successful, so we were going to try again soon with frozen embryos we had stored from the first attempt. Her parents had been paying for the storage of her embryos for us, but they're legally the property of my wife and I, and now just me since she passed. Her parents are going to be charged again soon for continuing to store the embryos, so I let them know I'm about to cancel it so they won't be charged, since I'm not going to use them. They told me they don't want me to cancel the storage. They want me to keep having them stored, which they'll pay for, because they want to hire surrogates to carry grandchildren for them. My wife was their only kid, and they're really set on being grandparents. Apparently, they've already talked to a lawyer to make sure it can legally be done, and that I won't be responsible for the babies if I don't want to be. It weirds me out that they talked to a lawyer before asking me if it was okay, but anyway. I told them I'm not okay with it. They want me to wait to make a decision because we're all still grieving and aren't in the best mindset to make decisions. But I'm worried that if I wait and let them pay for another 6 months of storage, they'll use the fact they paid for the extra time as more reason why I should let them use the embryos anyway. I can't imagine ever being okay with it, and I don't think my wife would be either, though her parents disagree. I just want to cancel it now. But I feel bad if I'd be taking away their only shot at grandkids while their grief is still fresh. I'd also feel bad letting them pay for an extra 6 months and giving them hope I'll change my mind, when I know I won't. Edited to add. I thought about it more, and I can't get over how insane their idea is. I'm having the embryos destroyed. I don't think they can sue for rights to use them, but I don't want to take that chance. Edited to add 2. A lot of people are confused about what an embryo is. It's a fertilized egg, so that's my wife's genetic material and mine. Obviously, it's entirely your choice. However, it's generally recommended after a major traumatic event like this one that people don't make big decisions for at least 1 year. Having the embryos destroyed is a major decision. You could consider talking it over with a therapist before you do something that can't be undone. Call the clinic to have them put a note in the file about the situation. You want to make sure they don't try to move the embryos without your permission or try other shenanigans with a forged signature or something. Let them pay for another 6 months. It's not expensive, and it'll give you time to grieve and deal with other priorities before making a decision regarding whether to destroy the embryos, donate them, or keep them for yourself for use eventually. Obviously, letting her parents use them is absurd and would produce a totally messed up child, so that's a no. I doubt any clinic would approve such a plan, even with your consent. This is your decision, and your decision only. Your feelings trump theirs. They are grieving, but they are not entitled to grandkids. If their daughter had died and there were no frozen embryos, this wouldn't even be an option. They are at the bargaining and denial stage of grief. If you need time, allow them the extra 6 months. But be firm your feelings will probably not change, and you're doing it to give yourself and them time and space to grieve. The potential children have to be considered too. Who would parent them in the event your in-laws died? How would they feel knowing their dad was out there but had relinquished rights to them? How would they come to terms with knowing their mother died long before their birth? As others have recommended, talk to a lawyer and seek therapy before making a final decision. But don't feel pressure to give in if you're adamantly against it. So, my cousin and her fiancé dated for 4 years through college, and then he went away to do his military duty. They both have each other's Instagram account open in each other's phone, so they got access to everything, including search histories. Me and my cousin were pulling an all-nighter, and around 4 a.m., she noticed her fiancé had searched some S-workers' Instagram pages that were around the town he did his military duty. She called him, but he didn't answer. The next morning, he said he was asleep. They had a full-blown fight that lasted 3 full days. He swore up and down that he searched those for an old man who didn't know how to use Instagram at the military base. After some persistence, she believed him. I have to admit, he was very convincing. Well, I wasn't buying it, and she is my best friend in the world, and she didn't deserve this. So I took her phone and chatted with him as I was her. I told him along the lines of, "It's all right, honey. I know celibacy is hard for you after 4 years. We can work through this. Just tell me the truth." Things like that. To my surprise, after 2 hours of pushing, he confessed. He said he had his needs, and she hadn't helped him at all for 4 years. Then he apologized for his mistake and swore he would never do such things again. I showed the message to her. Well, she didn't take it well, broke up with him, and called me an a-hole for invading their privacy. She had a full-blown meltdown, yelling at me, and left to her place. It's been a day now, and her mother called me to listen to my version of the story. Then, my cousin grabbed the phone and started yelling at me for ruining her life, and I was a spoiled little brat. I'm 19. That has no respect for people's privacy. I'm broken into pieces. I'm afraid this relationship is a lost cause now, and will never be as close again. But they were planning to get married this spring, and I couldn't let that piece of crap betray her like that. I'm so sorry the way I chose to show my point. How do I make amends? What you did was not okay. Let me just start with that. Invading someone's privacy like that, pretending to be her, basically taking away her agency in this whole matter, was a really selfish move. Not only was your cousin betrayed by the man she loved, but also by you, someone else she trusted. I'm not saying that you should have hidden your concerns. You love her and want her to be happy, that's clear. What you did, however, was clearly heavily misguided. Can you imagine how powerless she must feel? Her fiancé cheats on her while away, and her cousin takes away her chance to figure it out on her own, to make her own decisions on how to deal with it. Honestly, the only thing you can do is to tell her that you royally ducked up, that you did it out of love, but that it was seriously misguided and not an excuse. That you understand if she needs time away from your relationship, but that you hope she will in time forgive you, since you really value the relationship you have. You didn't ruin the relationship, he did. What you did ruin was your relationship with your cousin by being intrusive. Her anger at you is justified, if misplaced. All that being said, realize that she's definitely got a lot on her plate right now, and you're probably taking the brunt of her anger. She might be able to forgive you, but you need to give her time and space to do so. My maternal granddad recently gave a cousin and I a very significant amount of money each. About a decade ago, he was really ill, and despite being fairly young and in high school at the time, we stayed at his place and took care of him for a couple of years. This was between late 2006 to late 2009. My aunt and my mom would come by every weekend or so, while my other aunt was living in another country. It involved helping him get out of bed, making sure he ate at the right times, helping him walk, and on a few occasions, cleaning him up if he made a mess at night. My cousin and I didn't mind too much, as it gave 2 young teens the opportunity to get up to all sorts of crap and play our PS2 way later than our moms would like. Fast forward to recently, our granddad basically gave us both a lot of money as thanks for taking care of him those years, and generally helping him when no one else really gave a damn. It was completely unexpected, but definitely nice to receive. I did tell my parents and helped them pay off a couple things, but that was it. However, my aunt got really ill and needs heart surgery, costing a lot of money. My dad and mom asked me to help her, and I said no. They also mentioned it to my dad's side of the family, and now I have a ton of people crawling out of the woodwork to ask me to help her. But here's the thing. This aunt and I have not spoken since maybe 2012. I had my final high school exams that year, and despite performing really well all throughout high school, some things happened, and I just blew it. If my grades used to be straight A's, they were crap. I ended up depressed and dropped out of a community college program I barely scraped into. Around this time, our parents had a falling out that was unrelated, and this aunt basically talked crap about me, calling me a failure, a dropout, a future beggar. I don't even remember doing anything that would have caused her to target me specifically, and more than likely, she just did so to hurt my parents, who are very proud people and generally always accepted nothing less than the best from my siblings and I. I even tried to mend that bridge, and she cut that off completely, which was back in 2015. I'd grown distant over the last 4 years or so, and now everyone, including family who had a ton of crap to talk, are asking or not so subtly telling me that I have to pay for her. My mom and dad are upset because she's family, and despite our falling out, I shouldn't turn her down because her needing heart surgery very soon is more important than a grudge. I'm pissed because they talked even after I asked them not to. I don't know what to do. Do I just lick my pride off the ground and pay for her? I am of a mind to tell them to piss off, but at the same time, I'm not 100% certain I wouldn't feel guilty at some point. You earned that money by being your granddad's loving caretaker. No one has the right to tell you how to spend it. Your aunt is facing the consequences of being nasty and hateful. She made that bed. I feel the need to chime in with everyone else. You don't owe her anything, and you're not a horrible person for doing so. Your aunt cut you off, refused to mend ties, and now expects stuff from you. Sorry, honey, that's not how the world works. If she wasn't a family member, would you have this many conniptions about it? Family doesn't mean crap. It's actions that mean something, and your aunt already made her bed. Now let her lie in it. I, 34 female, found out from my brother, 40 male, that my sister, 45 female, has been talking crap about me. Everything from I am gaining weight, not really, to Ghost must have an eating disorder. She calls me stingy, greedy, and pathetic. She said my boyfriend left because I must be ugly naked and have no redeeming qualities. I have the best job in my whole family and was being nice about helping out my sister. She lost her job 2 years ago, car crash, and has been in trouble financially. She got on her feet, I paid off some bills, and was paying for a private school for my niece, 11, and my nephew, 12. I live 2,000 miles away and cannot see my family very often. We talk on the phone and see one another every 4 years. My brother told me I should stop trying with sister because she uses others. He stopped helping her out when she outed him as gay to our parents, when he was 35. I didn't know she was responsible for that. He sent me texts she sent him and Facebook messages. I asked her about them over Skype, and she admits she said it, but it was a joke. The things she wrote were very hurtful, rude, and cruel. She then said I owe her because I had better opportunities as a kid. I told her I was done paying for anything and never to speak to me again. While it will hurt not to see my siblings, I want nothing to do with my sister now. I've made sure that any bills I was helping with no longer come out of my bank account and have called the school, letting them know my payments will stop soon, so they need to speak with my sister. I do not feel bad about taking the money from schooling because there are great free public schools in the area. Knowing she is the reason my parents no longer speak to my brother, and by association me, I am bi, makes me kind of hate her. She called me such nasty names and said such terrible things when I have done nothing but try to help her. She has been sending me crying texts about how her kids need to go to the private school and how she misses me. This was 2 weeks ago, and I am still not willing to speak with her. I feel she is using her children to make me feel bad, and I don't need that in my life. I am second-doubting myself, though. I want to know what other people think and would like some words of wisdom. Am I doing the right thing? Am I handling this right? Do I need to have a more detailed conversation with my sister about her behavior? To get money, other people need to clean toilets or stand in front of a hot stove for 14 hours a day or have S with gross old people. You didn't even have to be grateful. All you had to do to keep getting free money is not be nasty. You couldn't manage it. These are the consequences. Feel free to try one of the options above. I, 29 female, have an ex, 34 male, Richard. It's been 3 years since we separated due to him being A and cheating. But we are not divorced, as divorce is expensive in my country, and whenever I apply for divorce, Richard insists on mediation. So divorce is not granted as one of us tries to save the marriage. He lives with his mistress and they have a kid together that was conceived when we were still together. Due to both of them harassing me, I have a restraining order against both of them. My employer is aware of all of this as the utility company my ex works for supplies the buildings their offices are at, one of the major suppliers in the country. Now to the actual events. Due to restrictions, everyone is currently working from home with a few days in the office. Richard decided to show up at my work with his kid and demanded to see me for child support money, since we are still legally married. As my employer is aware of the situation, the reception refused to tell him if I'm in the office or not. I was, and asked Richard to leave. Richard did not, and security was called. As he was with his child, security couldn't use force to remove Richard, so reception threatened to call the utility company he works for. Richard didn't believe the reception can do it. So, long story short, him and his mistress were fired with immediate effect, as Richard showing up to my work has been seen as gross misconduct, and they discovered Richard was his mistress's boss. Apparently, his employer didn't know they were together and is strictly forbidden to have a relationship with someone who is directly employed by you. The utility company apologized for Richard's actions and gave a considerable discount for their services to make sure the news of what happened wouldn't spread. Since they were fired, I'm getting calls from unknown numbers of various Richards, his mistress's family members and friends, saying I'm responsible for it and just a jealous a-hole for getting them fired to get Richard back. We still have friends in common, and they believe him getting fired and losing the only source of income they have is too harsh, and I should have prevented that, shouldn't have spoken in the beginning about what happened. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just not to repeat myself in the comments. His family believes it's okay to have several partners and be responsible for kids, even if they are from affair. And according to our friends in common, he spread a lie that I couldn't get pregnant. I don't want and never wanted kids. So his mistress helped us out with that. But then I overreacted and called it cheating. So he had to stay with her to support the kid. It's the same as he pulled in the court when we were getting divorced, with his "I still love her and should have communicated better" lies. So the court wouldn't grant a divorce, as they believe he is trying to save the marriage and I'm being unreasonable. A guy you have a restraining order against showed up at your job, made a scene, and got fired. You're obviously not the a-hole here.